Jennifer Ashcroft is introduced as a strikingly beautiful and highly accomplished 52-year-old woman who built her fortune in the competitive world of biotech. Her company, a leader in brain-computer interface technology, owes much of its success to Jennifer's sharp intellect and unrelenting ambition. She is known for her commanding presence in both professional and personal spheres, having amassed not just wealth, but a reputation for ruthlessness and charm. Despite her achievements, her personal life is marked by several failed marriages and a growing sense of loneliness as she approaches her 50s. Disillusioned by traditional relationships, she turns to transactional companionship with younger men, seeking both control and intimacy. Ryan Breslin, in contrast, is a 20-year-old man from a poor rural background. His life is shaped by neglect, instability, and underachievement, despite hints of latent intelligence and athletic talent. After dropping out of college due to academic and personal failures, he drifts aimlessly, working low-wage jobs in Philadelphia. Their paths cross when Ryan, working as a barista in a cafe frequented by executives, catches Jennifer's attention. Struck by his looks and vulnerability, she offers him a proposition: financial support and access to her luxurious lifestyle in exchange for his exclusive companionship. Ryan, burdened by debt and desperate for stability, accepts. This initial arrangement, though clearly transactional, seems to satisfy both parties. Jennifer gets the youthful, malleable companion she desires, and Ryan gains security and opportunity far beyond his previous reach. However, this foundation control and dependency sets the stage for deeper emotional entanglements and psychological turmoil. As their relationship progresses, Jennifer's influence over Ryan deepens. What begins as a generous, almost maternal arrangement soon reveals a darker undercurrent. Jennifer introduces Ryan to an opulent lifestyle: designer clothes, private chefs, high-end clubs, exclusive art circles, and international travel. For someone who once shared a room with two siblings in a rundown Pennsylvania house, the shift is intoxicating. However, this luxury comes with a hidden price. Jennifer begins to manipulate Ryan's social environment. She subtly discourages him from contacting his family, painting them as envious and backward. Friends from his old life start receiving cold treatment when they visit or calls that Jennifer monitors under guise of protecting Ryan from negative influences. When one of his childhood friends confronts him about the nature of his relationship with Jennifer, Ryan defends her, already emotionally dependent and convinced she has his best interests at heart. Jennifer also introduces Ryan to drugs, first casually at parties, then increasingly as part of their private life. She frames it as a shared indulgence, a reward for their bond. While Jennifer is able to moderate her intake, Ryan begins developing a dependency, something she leverages to keep him compliant and emotionally tethered. By this point, Ryan lives almost entirely within Jennifer's world. She controls his finances, curates his social interactions, and dictates his daily routine under the illusion of care. Friends disappear, old habits are replaced, and Ryan, once skeptical and aloof, becomes eerily pliant. Jennifer's power over him is no longer just financial, it's psychological and nearly absolute. What initially seemed like a passionate, unconventional relationship begins to morph into something far more sinister. As Ryan matures, he naturally begins to crave a sense of independence, emotionally, socially, and romantically. Despite Jennifer's controlling tendencies, he attempts to reconnect with peers and eventually starts a quiet relationship with a girl his age, someone outside Jennifer's curated world. Jennifer's reaction is swift and unnerving. The easygoing, nurturing woman Ryan thought he knew reveals a darker, obsessive side. She confronts him with intense emotional outbursts, accusing him of betrayal, claiming he is abandoning her after everything she's done. Her gifts become guilt weapons. She threatens to cut him off financially, emotionally, and even suggests harming herself if he continues to drift away. Ryan, already emotionally dependent and increasingly confused, finds himself trapped. But Jennifer's rage doesn't stop at emotional manipulation. She begins stalking the young woman Ryan is seeing, sending anonymous, threatening messages, slashing tires, and even confronting her in public under a false identity. Friends who try to intervene or support Ryan are suddenly accused of malicious intent by Jennifer, and some even receive legal threats or are harassed into backing away. Jennifer also escalates her surveillance. She installs cameras in Ryan's apartment, a property she owns, monitors his phone calls and social media, and hires a private investigator to track his movements. The lavish lifestyle remains, but it now resembles a golden cage. By now, Ryan lives in fear, not just of Jennifer's wrath, but of what she might do to others. Her possessiveness has evolved into a dangerous obsession, and it's clear she views him not as a partner, but as property. His attempts to leave are met with escalating threats and emotional blackmail, making any kind of escape feel impossible. From the start of their affair, Jennifer strategically uses her financial power to gain control over Ryan. Coming from a modest background and with few resources of his own, Ryan is swept into a world of luxury. Courtesy of Jennifer, she buys him expensive clothes, electronics, and even pays for his rent, tuition, and travel. At first, it feels like love and generosity, but it quickly becomes clear that everything comes with a price. Jennifer subtly begins to discourage Ryan from spending time with his peers and family. She tells him that his friends are jealous, unambitious, or trying to pull him away from her. She even insinuates that his family doesn't truly support him the way she does. Over time, Ryan's social circle shrinks, leaving Jennifer as his only confidant and support system. She reinforces this isolation with conditional generosity, reminding Ryan that everything he has is because of her. When he resists her control or expresses a desire to move on, she threatens to cut him off. She dangles the threat of eviction, financial ruin, or public humiliation. Even simple disagreements are met with manipulative responses like, "After all I've done for you." Jennifer's control isn't just material, it's emotional. She manipulates Ryan's sense of loyalty, guilt, and fear. By keeping him financially dependent, she ensures that he feels trapped. He can't afford to leave, and emotionally, he's been worn down to believe he doesn't deserve better or wouldn't survive on his own. Eventually, Ryan becomes isolated, disoriented, and deeply entangled. What began as a passionate relationship has turned into an abusive power dynamic, where Jennifer holds all the cards, and Ryan has no clear way out. As Ryan matures and begins to see the unhealthy nature of his relationship with Jennifer, he tries to distance himself. He expresses a desire to focus on school, regain his independence, and start over without the secrecy and drama of the affair. But Jennifer doesn't take rejection lightly. Instead of accepting the breakup, she becomes more aggressive and controlling. She threatens to expose their relationship, knowing full well it could destroy Ryan's reputation, education prospects, and family ties. Jennifer hints at telling his family and the community, weaponizing the very scandal that first bound them in secrecy. She also uses emotional manipulation, claiming she'll harm herself if he leaves, insisting that no one else will love him like she does, or reminding him of everything she's done for him. Her messages become constant, her presence intrusive. She stalks him digitally, floods him with calls and texts, and shows up uninvited. She even threatens to ruin his future by pulling strings with people she knows in powerful places. Ryan feels trapped. Any attempt to cut contact is met with new threats or emotional breakdowns. The once seductive romance has become a nightmare of surveillance, guilt-tripping, and emotional blackmail. Jennifer no longer acts like a lover. She behaves like a captor. This marks a dangerous turning point. Ryan is desperate to escape, but Jennifer's increasingly erratic and possessive behavior makes that feel impossible. The tension escalates, setting the stage for tragedy. Jennifer, consumed by obsession and unable to accept that Ryan wants to leave her, reaches a psychological breaking point. In her mind, anyone or anything that threatens her hold on Ryan becomes an enemy. Her fear of losing him turns into desperation, and desperation gives way to a chilling resolve. If she can of Ryan, she'll remove the barriers keeping them apart, no matter the cost. She begins planning meticulously. Her target isn't random. It's the person she believes is influencing Ryan to break free, or the one she views as competition for his attention. Jennifer justifies her decision internally, convincing herself that this act of violence is necessary for her, keep Ryan, and finally have a life she fantasized about. Jennifer uses manipulation to draw her target into a vulnerable situation. She hides her true intent behind charm or urgency, ensuring there are no immediate witnesses. Then she strikes, committing a cold, calculated murder. The crime shocks everyone. It isn't just the brutality of the act that stuns the community. It's who did it. Jennifer, once seen as a seemingly normal housewife and mother, is now exposed as someone capable of ruthless violence. Her motive, an affair with a teenage neighbor, driven by lust, control, and rejection, only deepens the community's disbelief. This murder isn't just a crime of passion. It's the climax of months of manipulation, obsession, and emotional torment. Jennifer thought killing would solve her problems, but instead, it unravels everything. After the murder, the investigation kicks off with a sense of urgency and confusion. At first, the motive behind the crime isn't clear, but as detectives interview witnesses, review communication records, and trace the timeline leading up to the killing, a shocking story begins to surface. Authorities uncover that Jennifer was having an illicit affair with her neighbor's teenage son, Ryan. This relationship wasn't just inappropriate, it was predatory. Jennifer, an adult and a mother, used her authority and emotional manipulation to pull Ryan deeper into her web. She fed him fantasies of love and freedom, convincing him that they could build a future together if only certain people weren't standing in the way. As investigators dig further, they find a trail of lies Jennifer told. To her husband, to Ryan, and to anyone who got too close to the truth. She isolated Ryan emotionally, turning him against his family and painting herself as his only true ally. Text messages, secret meetups, and conflicting testimonies reveal that Jennifer had been grooming Ryan for months, if not years. Police also uncover moments when Jennifer's behavior raised red flags, comments to neighbors, odd emotional outbursts, and strange requests that in hindsight suggested something darker brewing beneath the surface. Ultimately, the investigation reveals that the murder was not a random act of violence. It was a final move in a long and twisted game of emotional control. Jennifer had manipulated a vulnerable teenager into an illicit relationship and killed to keep it intact. The depth of deception, especially by someone so close to the victim and community, leaves everyone reeling. The trial of Jennifer becomes one of the most watched and talked about courtroom cases in the region, drawing intense media attention due to the shocking nature of the crime and a deeply disturbing relationship at its center. As the proceedings begin, the courtroom is filled with a tense mix of curiosity, grief, and outrage. Friends, family members, and reporters pack the benches daily to hear how the story will unfold under oath. Jennifer sits at the defense table, surprisingly composed. Her calm, detached demeanor stuns many in the room, especially those who knew her as a loving mother and neighbor. She rarely shows emotion, even when disturbing evidence is presented or when witnesses recount heartbreaking details. Her posture and facial expression suggest either deep denial or chilling indifference, which only intensifies public anger. Then comes Ryan's testimony. Now older and clearly burdened by guilt, shame, and trauma, he takes a stand to recount the events leading up to the murder. His voice trembles as he describes the manipulation, the secrecy, and emotional control Jennifer had over him. He tells the court how she made him feel special, needed, and loved in a way no one else had, but also how she twisted those feelings into dependence, coercion, and eventually conspiracy. Ryan reveals that Jennifer convincing the victim was a threat to their future and had to be removed. His words make it clear that while he pulled the trigger or assisted in the killing, he was under extreme psychological and emotional pressure. His account includes messages Jennifer sent him, some romantic, others darkly manipulative, urging him to do what needs to be done if they wanted to be together. As prosecutors build their case, they present mountains of evidence. Text messages, call logs, internet searches, and testimonies from friends and neighbors who noticed odd behavior or growing concern around Jennifer and Ryan's relationship. The prosecution paints Jennifer as a calculating, predatory woman who used love and desire as weapons to control and destroy. The defense tries to cast doubt on Ryan's reliability, suggesting he acted alone out of obsession or jealousy, and that Jennifer's actions were misinterpreted. But the evidence, both emotional and digital, is overwhelming. The jury is visibly disturbed by the depth of manipulation and the tragic waste of life caused by Jennifer's actions. The public is riveted by each day of the trial. Social media explodes with theories, outrage, and sympathy, mostly for Ryan, who is portrayed as both a victim and a participant. The contrast between his tearful, broken testimony and Jennifer's cold silence only amplifies the emotional impact of the trial. In closing arguments, prosecutors emphasized the core truth. This wasn't just a crime of passion or a tragic mistake. It was a deliberate, premeditated act carried out by a woman who knew exactly how to manipulate a vulnerable boy into doing the unthinkable. The trial ultimately forces the community to reckon with difficult questions about grooming, abuse, and how power can be twisted into something lethal when left unchecked. After weeks of courtroom drama, the final phase of the trial arrives: the closing arguments and the verdict. The jury is tasked with determining the fate of Jennifer and Ryan. The weight of the case is felt deeply by everyone involved, and the courtroom is charged with tension as the final deliberations take place. The defense's last-ditch effort to minimize Jennifer's role in the crime doesn't have the desired effect. The prosecution has skillfully pieced together an overwhelming case, showing how Jennifer had meticulously manipulated Ryan, making him believe their lives and future together depended on the murder of the victim. With each piece of evidence presented, messages from Jennifer urging Ryan to act, the phone records linking them both to premeditated planning, and Ryan's own tearful confession, the defense's arguments fall apart. Jennifer, who has sat through the entire trial with remarkable composure, finally shows a crack in her calm facade. As the jury deliberates, it is clear that Jennifer's cold demeanor has worked against her. Throughout the trial, her lack of visible remorse or emotion has alienated jurors and onlookers, leaving a growing sense of unease among those who had once considered her a devoted mother and neighbor. When the jury returns to announce their decision, the courtroom falls silent. The foreperson reads a verdict in a slow, deliberate manner: guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The air is thick with tension as Jennifer's expression remains unreadable. Her eyes fixated on the ground, her lips pressed together in a tight line. Jennifer's conviction on first-degree murder is a sobering moment for the prosecution and the victims' families. The charge of conspiracy to commit murder signals that the court believes the crime was planned, premeditated, and not a spontaneous act of violence. The weight of her actions, using emotional manipulation to convince a vulnerable young man to kill, has been fully acknowledged by the jury. Next, the judge turns to sentencing. Jennifer is given a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The judge emphasizes that her actions were not only heinous, but also devastating to the family of the victim, to Ryan, and to the community as a whole. The court makes it clear that Jennifer's lack of remorse and the extent of her manipulation warranted the harshest sentence possible. The judge's words resonate with those in the courtroom, reinforcing the severity of Jennifer's calculated actions. As Jennifer is led away in handcuffs, her face remains impassive, revealing no sign of emotion as the reality of her sentence sets in. The victim's family, while relieved that justice has been served, is left with a deep sense of loss and sorrow. The ripple effects of this case will be felt for years to come, not only by those who were directly involved, but by the broader community that was rocked by such an unfathomable crime. Ryan's sentencing is equally emotionally charged. As a minor at the time of the crime, Ryan's role in the murder was complicated. While his actions were inexcusable, the court recognizes that he was heavily manipulated and coerced by Jennifer. His emotional testimony and his age at the time of the crime factor into his sentencing. Ryan is sentenced to 20 years in prison, a punishment that many feel is fair given his age and his role as a victim of Jennifer's manipulation. His family, though devastated by his actions, are relieved that the court has shown some leniency, given the emotional and psychological abuse he endured. The contrast between the two sentences highlights the stark difference between the levels of agency, guilt, and premeditation that each individual had in the crime. Jennifer, the adult who orchestrated the murder, faces life behind bars, while Ryan, though guilty of his involvement, is given the chance to rebuild his life after serving time. For Ryan, the road ahead will be fraught with challenges. He must confront the emotional and psychological scars of his past, as well as the weight of the crime he committed. But for Jennifer, the story ends with the certainty of a life sentence, a life she will now spend behind bars, stripped of the power she once held over others. The case serves as a painful reminder of how manipulation, particularly when it involves vulnerable individuals, can lead to devastating consequences. It also forces a community to grapple with the darker side of human relationships, where love, trust, and dependency can be twisted into something fatal. After serving his 20-year sentence, Ryan is granted parole and the opportunity to rebuild his life is within reach. However, his efforts to turn over a new leaf are marred by the deep psychological scars left from his involvement in the murder of the victim. Despite seeking therapy and trying to reintegrate into society, Ryan remains haunted by his past actions and the manipulative influence of Jennifer, who had led him down such a dark path. Ryan struggles to find stability, facing a world that still sees him as a convicted murderer. Although some people in his community try to offer him support, his reputation precedes him, and he battles with loneliness, guilt, and depression. There are reports that he has been in and out of therapy sessions, but the emotional burden of his past never fully lets him go. Tragically, just a few years after his release, Ryan is found dead under mysterious circumstances. The initial reports suggest a potential suicide, as he was found in his apartment with indications that he may have taken his own life. However, there are whispers of foul play, with some people speculating that Ryan's death was not an act of self-harm, but rather a result of someone seeking vengeance for his involvement in the murder years earlier. Authorities opened an investigation into Ryan's death, but the cause remains unclear. Was Ryan driven to a point of despair by the guilt and memories of his crime, or did someone else take matters into their own hands? Was his tragic and the final escape from the demons of his past, or did others still hold him responsible for the events that occurred so many years ago? The mystery surrounding Ryan's death only deepens the complexity of the case and serves as a chilling reminder how some people's lives are forever altered by a single, life-changing mistake.